Hey everyone, Crash here, this is RTA Motorsports. I am so excited to bring today's video to you all. You can see I'm wearing my Float Life hat, and yes, that means we're going to be discussing Onewheel, but not only are we going to be talking about Onewheel, we're going to interview Justin Velasquez of Relentless Shred Shop, and we're not even only going to talk about what he can do for your boards, but what has he done to my board. Here we go.
Welcome to RTA Motorsports.
All right, everyone. So if you're new to this channel, you would see that we do a ton of sim racing and things related to motorsports. Yes, I do have a 2018 Camaro ZL1 that occasionally we race on the racetrack as well. I've tried a GT3 Cup car. I even dabble a little bit in drifting. There's a lot of that content on this channel. Definitely subscribe, hit that reminder bell, like this video. I would greatly appreciate it. But the one thing that has captured my heart recently is Onewheel. And not only just the fact that when you're riding it, you feel like you're snowboarding on the ground. It's just a beautiful carvy machine that really takes a lot of stress out of my life and brings me back outside. But there's an awesome competitive side to it. Yes, I have discovered the competitive side to the one thing that is making me relax. And if you've seen the last video we did on the Onewheel, I had a Onewheel Pint. I did the VNR upgrade, which is basically a battery pack add-on mod that you could do after the fact. I go into that a little bit more in that video, and I love the Pint. We have since sold that to a good friend, and I have recently purchased a Onewheel XR. I don't want to call it upgrade because really those two things are separate boards. The riding style is a little bit different from one to the other, but the XR generally is a little bit better or better suited for trail riding, especially if you're into competitive trail riding. And it does give you straight out of the box a lot more range. Now there was some upgrades that you could do on both boards to basically accomplish the same thing, but generally speaking, if you're going to be racing Onewheels, everyone tends to go to the XR, and the race for the rail, they typically always use the XR on there as well. Not to say that you can't do a lot of these different style races in the Pint. I mean, the last one we did, I did it on the Pint. Didn't really fare too well, but I am new to the Onewheel community and I'm new to Onewheel. I have a lot to learn as far as board control, the ins and outs of the board and everything like that. So I don't think I'm competitive yet, but I am definitely here to stay and to learn. So we did a lot of upgrades to my Onewheel in particular, and let's sit down with Justin Velasquez of Relentless Shred Shop. Let's not only learn about him and his shops, but other things as far as the community that he's involved in, and what did he do to my board. All right, everyone, we're here with Justin from Relentless Shred Shop. We're gonna get to know him and his businesses. Yes, that is plural, more than one. And we're just gonna see how his businesses can change your experiences with the Onewheel. So, hey Justin, how you doing?
Pretty good, man.
So, I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Little toasty out here today, but
oh,
yeah, we found a pretty good spot now. So, everyone, Justin, let us know, like, what's your history? What's your background? Did you board in the past? Do you dabble in the other sports at all?
Yeah, I actually didn't skateboard or snowboard or anything like that growing up. I think I had like a little cheap plastic snowboard when I was a kid. Don't really count that. And we used to ride down hills on our skateboards sitting on our butts, so it's not really a translatable skill. But I did grow up playing sports. I grew up riding BMX, not professionally or anything, but that was the way I got around my town. And
gotcha.
Just one of those things that I think for me translated having kind of good spatial awareness and good awareness of how my body operates and reacts in different situations. And I think that translated well to Onewheeling.
Gotcha. So how did you actually discover the sport of Onewheel?
Yeah, so it was actually a funny story. Just over the hills that are behind the cameras here, I was working for a gentleman who owns a mailbox business, and he and his family were over in Tahoe for just a vacation.
Yeah.
And they noticed that at North Star there was this interesting event going on right next door to them. Turned out to be Race for the Rail 2 summers ago.
Whoa, all right.
And they ended up coming back with a Onewheel because they thought, oh, this is super cool.
Yeah.
And came back, and from there on out, really, everybody at the office was taking turns on the Onewheel during lunch breaks and just going out, ripping around the 30-acre property that he had.
Oh, wow.
And that's where it began for me.
Perfect. That's actually perfect. That's awesome. So what one did he start off with, or what one did he buy?
He bought the XR.
The XR?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good idea, because out there, I think we would have killed that Pint in a week.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nothing against the Pint, but just wasn't cut out for the terrain.
The terrain or the use, right? It sounds like a lot of people were jumping on it.
Yep.
That was about 2 summers ago. That was the first time you were experienced to, or you were shown what Onewheel is all about. What did you actually get, and when did you get it?
So I think I got, kind of thinking together in my mind here, I got a Pint. I want to say that it was in either the end of November of 2019 or maybe even October.
Oh, wow.
So I ordered it then. It took a couple of months of me riding the XR and trying to figure out if I thought Future Motion was going to come out with another board or not.
Yeah.
When I decided that probably wasn't something I should bank on, I got the Pint, said I'd wait it out, and I didn't wait it out, but that's what I got.
There you go. So overall, like, you started off with the Pint, and then you moved up to the XR. Obviously, you have this XR, and it looks like you kind of dabble with a few other boards as well. How long did it take for you to actually get that transition from the Pint to the XR? When did you realize, like, you know what, I'm gonna need an XR now?
I think it only took, I don't know, maybe a month, maybe less, maybe a little bit more, give or take.
Yeah.
I knew I wanted an XR,
Yeah.
but I didn't want to spend the money for the XR off the bat, and then still thinking maybe they'll drop another board and I'll just be slapping myself.
Yeah.
But yeah, I ended up picking up a used XR probably 1 or 2 months after I got my Pint.
Gotcha. That actually kind of coincides to my time frame. It's been about 2.5, 3 months, and then I picked up the XR as well. You know, it's like you want to start off, well, in my case, I wanted to start off with the Pint. I wasn't sure how much I was going to fall in love with Onewheel. Wasn't even sure if I was even going to use the darn thing, and it has never left my side, and then all of a sudden, XR. So
Exactly.
yeah. You have a few different businesses here. You have the Relentless Shred Shops that were, you know, I just experienced your business here with this board, and we'll go over in just a little bit exactly what you did to transform this board and kind of make it into a little bit of a beast right now. I'm so excited as to what you did to this board, but we'll go over that in just a little bit. But you also have some other businesses too, all related to Onewheel. When did you decide that, you know what, this is going to be my life? I kind of want to start working on these boards. And what is Relentless Shred Shops? What do you do?
Yeah, so to answer the first question there, I started working on my own board.
Okay.
I was already somebody who liked to tinker around with electronics and even other things like construction type stuff.
Yeah.
Just all technical type things. And I was good with tools, and I figured I can work on my own board. And shortly after that, I started joking around. I posted this post one day, and it was called Justin's Board Repair Services. It said slow, unfriendly, and unaffordable. And I put a tag on there that said, call us never, and I put my number down there.
Good deal.
And I was totally just joking, but in the back of my mind, I knew that it could be a reality. So I ended up opening up Relentless Shred Shop, and Relentless was actually a brand name that I had come up with for a potential different project years and years ago. That one had the valves in it, by the way.
Okay.
No valves in this one,
Yeah.
It was for something different that fell through, and I just fell in love with the name.
Yeah.
And I had a whole black and white theme, and I just kind of held on to it for a future project, and this was it. So Relentless, really, for me, it was a way to give back to the community. And the whole mindset behind Relentless is just that you go after things in a relentless manner, which basically means that you don't let anything get in your way. If anything does, you overcome it, and you just keep pursuing whatever your goals are. And that's the way that I feel I approach my business as well.
Yeah. So how long after actually getting, because I'm sure it was after your XR, right, that you started thinking about Relentless, or were you already thinking it like when you first purchased your Pint?
So the wheels were turning already internally.
Okay.
I think I'd already done some jobs for people I knew who had Pints. My boss had the XR, and I had fixed his board up because we beat that thing up pretty bad.
Yeah.
And when I came across some extra parts, I just decided, hey, I should pay him back in some way.
Oh, all right.
And
cool.
I put on some new bumpers. I think I maybe found a new foot pad or a new fender, things like that, just things to get his board back to a respectful shape.
Yeah.
And
Cool. So what does Relentless Shred Shop actually do? Like, what can you do to a board? I mean, I know what you can do, but for the people out there that are not really familiar with Onewheel, because actually a lot of people that follow my channel, they're all over the map. So a lot of the comments I was getting on my first Onewheel video was, what the heck is a Onewheel? let alone what can you do to a Onewheel. So maybe we should backtrack a little bit and let's talk about what the Onewheel is from your perspective, and just for the people that maybe never seen this before. And I'll take the fender off just so they can get a clear shot as to what we have here.
Absolutely. Yeah, so the Onewheel, the best way I can describe it is it's not necessarily an electric skateboard, but that's the closest thing it's related to.
Yeah.
The name says it all. It has a single wheel in the center. There's self-balancing technology in here, electric hub motor in the center. So when you get on it, it allows you to balance, and you can lean forward, you can lean backward to accelerate in that direction, kind of like a Segway if you're familiar with that. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, it is considered an electrically motorized board, an EMB. That's the exact classification.
Gotcha.
And there are a lot of things you can do to it. You could change out your bumpers, you could change out your foot pads, front and back, your tire. You can even change out your rails or just the guards that go on the rails.
Yeah, and I saw the Float Life, they make the WTF rails, or Wow That's Fast rails, as they call them. So your business you could do any of that.
I can do any of that. All of the accessory upgrades I can do. I can do repairs all the way down to the level of soldering things. Yeah. Which we'll get into later.
Yeah. So now that you guys all experienced or have seen what a Onewheel is, I know my first experience with a Onewheel was basically seeing some guy kind of ride in my neighborhood, and he was just riding down a sidewalk. And it wasn't until I started doing these like little moments of I wanted to research, and late at night I'm like, what the heck was that? And I'm like researching in the middle of the night. I started seeing videos on Race for the Rail, and I started seeing these people ripping down mountains with these things. And so maybe you could explain to me a little bit, like, how did you get into sort of riding on terrain, or terrain that's not like street or sidewalks or anything like that? And what do you prefer? Do you prefer road racing or road floating? Or do you prefer going out on the trails?
Yeah, so my first experience out on the 30-acre property was all off-road, and it was not trails that were upkept by any means. It was, it was
just property,
Yeah, property with like an access road that goes around the perimeter. Bad ruts, off-camber sections where you're kind of leaning the opposite way to counterbalance the board. And yeah, at that time, I loved it, but I also hated it. Yeah. It really sucked to learn out there, but when I got my Pint and I rode in the pavement areas, that's really where I thought, man, I already went through the hardest parts of this. Yeah. This is amazing. My freedom was completely open. It took me back to when I was riding the BMX bike around my old town up in Oregon. And yeah, really, I'd say 85% for me prefers street or paved riding. Really? Okay. And then 15% or so off-road, but I've hit both. Gotcha. My board is built for street riding. Oh, okay. I have a slick tire and ceramic bearings, but yeah, at the end of the day, I'll hit either. It's just whatever I'm feeling in the moment. Good deal, good deal. And that's why I kind of wanted to bring that back to some of the upgrades here. You can see Justin just installed for me a treaded tire here, and we'll go into that in just a little bit. And you can see his in the background there is actually a slick, and that's kind of what comes stock on these, the stock Vega, which is kind of a wider, flatter tire on the XR. How do you feel about that tire? I know there's some people that hate that tire, but as I understand, there's a pretty good purpose with it, as far as when you just first pick up your first Onewheel. What do you feel about that tire? I think it's great for beginners. Yeah. Because even when you're a beginner, if you're on that tire, it probably doesn't feel this way, but I think that it's harder to fall on that because it has more of a squared profile. Yeah. Even though it's round, it has kind of closer to a 90-degree edge here. Yeah. Not quite, still rounded, but yeah, and the fact that it's a little bit wider just gives you a little more surface area to learn on. Once you get past that learning stage, my personal preference is once you change that tire, never go back to it. Yeah. Because you've already taken what you need to from it, which is learning the ropes. You already got rid of that white belt? Exactly. You're onto the yellow belt now? Yeah, you don't want to go back to the white belt. That's a perfect way to summarize it. Let's go over with basically your business here. Let's go over the board real quick, and then I want to go into some of your other ventures that you're doing in the Onewheel community and actually talk about the Onewheel community a little bit more a little bit later. So what exactly did you do to this board? Because this is, there's some newer things involved in this board that just recently, well, not recently, but still pretty new technology.
to this board that could change a lot of people's experience that have purchased a newer XR, and we'll go over to that in just a second. So if you want to just bring us into what you've done so far.
Exactly, yeah. So the first thing that I did, a very common type of job that I do through my shop, is a tire change.
Yeah.
Started with the Vega on this board and ended up going to the Hoosier T2 or Flight Fins 2 tire. Flight Fins is one of the businesses in the Onewheel community. Very good business, great people.
Yeah.
And that was kind of more of a common one. The next thing we did was back here on this backside, underneath this foot pad is where the battery module is.
Yeah.
You have a battery and you have a BMS that are housed inside of that.
Okay.
First thing we did was we upgraded the battery to a Shy Battery System CBXR, which very close to doubles the range on the XR. And average range, it depends on your size, would be about 20 miles of range on semi-flat ground, or maybe some downhill will give you more. But this doubles that. So if you're a little bit bigger and you get maybe 15 miles, you should be looking at close to 30 or so.
Yeah, that would be me. A little bit on the bigger end. Yeah.
So, after the battery, what we ended up doing with this is we installed some very new technology from JW Batteries. It's called the JW FFM chip. If you don't know what that stands for, feel free to look it up. But the chip itself allows you to take a newer model board, which would be, you have a hardware version of 4210. That's about the cutoff for you to be able to install an extended battery.
Yeah.
4211 and 4212, at least at the time of shooting this interview, are the newest hardware models of boards, and both of those have been locked down by the manufacturer from extended battery installs. If you install one in those boards, the board will just get moody with you and want you to hop off, and it won't go forward anymore.
Yeah.
So that little chip allows us to bypass that whole error system and basically spoof a signal from the BMS to the controller up here, so that it says, hey, everything's fine, everything's operating as it normally would with a regular battery. So that, in essence, has allowed us to install an extended battery in a newer board. This is a 4211, by the way.
Yeah.
So
what is a, because I know you mentioned the battery, but what's the BMS? Because that's what you installed the chip on. What does that do?
Yeah, the BMS, it stands for Battery Management System, and it really just regulates everything regarding the battery, whether that's the way that it charges, the way that it drains. It's also a communication tool, sending signals back and forth to the controller.
Yeah.
If there's an issue with the BMS, a lot of the time what will happen is that signal will be sent to the controller, and the controller will shut the board down in a safe manner, where it kind of, instead of riding at level, it gives you a little bit of what's called pushback, which tells you something's wrong and that you should stop and get off. So it's complete management system for the battery and a communication system to speak to the controller on the battery's behalf.
Nice. So as far as this board here, that's pretty much what you have done so far. As technology comes out, as things happen, you may be doing a lot more work in the future.
Oh yeah.
Specifically grip tape. That's probably going to be the next thing I'm going to have to do with you. But on the Pint end, what type of work do you commonly do for that, or what type of work can you do to upgrade the mileage? Because the Pint has a serious issue with it as far as mileage, right? Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
The Pint itself probably tops out at, I want to say 15 to 16 miles.
Okay.
Give or take.
Yeah.
Again, the whole weight situation applies to that as well.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the Pint, yeah, that's the biggest downfall of that. I love how agile the Pint is.
Yeah, yeah.
But same type of thing with the Pint. We get some tire changes, but as far as the range goes, the battery can be upgraded. Shy Battery Systems and JW Batteries both offer Pint battery upgrades.
Oh, that's cool.
That you can drop in there. And there's also what's called an R3D Customs X2R. That's another company in the Onewheel community, where there's a battery and sometimes a voltmeter built into fenders that you would then mount on your Pint. So it's a little bit thicker, and you have a battery inside of it, but it essentially does the same type of thing, and that's what's known as a VNR, which stands for Vamp and Ride.
Yeah.
And it's called Vamp because you're tapping into the positive and negative power cables inside the board.
And that's something you can install as well.
That's something I can install.
Yeah.
The VNRs are becoming less and less common because of the fact that the amazing battery companies in our community have been stepping up and giving us an option to just put something in there that you can't even tell is there.
Exactly, exactly. So with that being said, I want to go into some of your other ventures and some of the other things you're working on or helping create. The one thing that kind of hooked me big time, besides the board, is just the amazing community, how nice everyone is, how community conscious everyone is within the Onewheeling group. And we have an amazing group around us here. I consider myself very lucky that not only did I get into just an awesome hobby that took me outside because I felt like I was locked in my house, but the Gold Country Onewheeling group that we're a part of here is an absolute amazing group, and everyone looks out for each other. But they also do other things that are absolutely amazing too, and they look for their local communities. And one of the things that you're kind of a part of and you're helping out is the Meals on Onewheels. And I haven't had a chance yet to really go to one yet, unfortunately with my work schedule, but it's amazing what you guys do. It's amazing basically what your community focus is. But yeah, maybe if you could tell us a little bit more what that is and what you guys actually do.
Yeah, Meals on Onewheels was started toward the end of last year by a couple of amazing people, Mike and Ev, that just came together, met at a group ride and had an idea and collaborated and made it happen. But some of you may know that there is a Meals on Wheels, but Meals on Onewheels is a similar outreach.
Yeah.
We actually go out and we provide hot meals and supplies, hygiene products for unhoused neighbors in different cities. Most of the cities we've been to so far have been in California.
Yeah.
But the whole goal for that is to expand across the country and hopefully in other countries as well. We're starting small, but we just get a bunch of one-wheelers together who are willing to volunteer their time, come together and just help out, again, our unhoused neighbors, people who we don't always chat with, we don't always interact with or anything, but we want to not only do something good, but we also want to show that those of us who ride these things aren't just a menace to society.
Exactly.
It's something that we can give back. We are people just like everybody else around us.
Yeah.
So.
And if you can't make it to the events, because I know, again, they are starting locally. You guys are mainly here in the California region. There's many ways to give, and that's what I've been doing lately is basically just donating to the cause. So I'll post a link down below. So that way you could donate to the cause and help them out, expand their reach to other areas of the nation. Another thing, kind of helping the community out, but a little bit more focused towards PEVs, is another venture you're coming up with. It's called Fix My PEV, I believe it's called. And what is that, and when did you kind of start to feel the need to create something like that?
Yeah, Fix My PEV is a collaborative resource for not only repair shops, but for people who might want to do things themselves. It's not something that we're literally going to outline a complete teardown of the board, like some of you may be familiar with Chilton's or Haynes manuals that cars have. We're not quite at that level, but we will be as efficient as possible in making sure that you have the right information, or from the shop perspective, we want to make sure that all of the shops who actually want to participate in Fix My PEV are able to have access to the best information available so that they can fix your device as well as possible. So at the end of the day, it's a free collaboration, and there's a number of shops in the community that I think needed it and will benefit greatly from it. So I actually started thinking of that about the beginning of last month.
Oh, wow.
Say it was June 2nd is when it first came to fruition. I was already kind of brainstorming what we might want to call it and what we might want to have it stand for. So yeah, June 2nd is when I first started getting the wheels turning on Fix My PEV, got the domain, got the email address, and started putting together a website. And now we're at the end of July. The website is functional, fixmypev.com. Still working on some things, but it just brings a lot of beneficial resources together, and we want to grow organically. We want teamwork to be the mindset, collaboration to be the mindset. And at the end of the day, we're a bunch of independent repair shops running our businesses the way that we want to run them. But it doesn't hurt to rub elbows sometimes, make sure that we are together growing and getting better for the community that we serve and love to be a part of.
Yeah, it's awesome. And a lot of the businesses that are on there are already reachable through that service, right? Like you could already use the map and kind of see, but it's ever growing, right? You plan on getting more local shops on there and getting more representation around the country. Yeah, so definitely check that out, especially if you are looking to get into Onewheel and you want to get a lot of custom work done, kind of like I did here, and you're not really comfortable with taking the board completely apart, taking the battery box apart, which you had to customize the battery box just to fit that battery. If all of that seems a little bit uncomfortable to you, definitely take a look at that site, find a local resource or a local shop near you, and you could get basically what I got done wherever you are in the world. So the next thing I want to go into is just some fun questions. You've been repairing boards and working on boards for a while. Have you had any that was like a particularly weird repair or like something crazy? Like what's the weirdest repair you had to go through, or maybe even the most difficult repair?
The most difficult repairs are the repairs that can't be done, I would say. There was actually one board that was brought into me after some water damage. And just keep in mind, if you're watching this, water and electronics, even though it's 2021, still don't mix very well.
Yeah.
So they brought this board in and they wanted me to diagnose it, and I had to take literally everything apart. I took the motor apart to the insides, the battery module, the controller module, everything was completely open and exposed. And I was trying to figure out what the issue was. There were burnt chips, there was the buildup from the water damage, all of that stuff was in there. There's a little bit of rust. And at the end of that whole repair, I was able to determine that it was not repairable. There is one thing that can happen with the boards where if your MCU chip in the controller blows, then you can't fix it. And that's, again, because the manufacturer, it makes sense that they do this, but at the same time, it kind of sucks for the consumer. They don't offer the ability to replace that chip and then load the firmware that's required to actually run the board. So you can replace the chip itself physically, but you can't get the technology that actually backs that chip to run the board.
Yeah.
So it was unfortunately a dead board.
Yeah.
And they ended up selling that to me for parts for, I think, $300.
Oh, there you go.
And it has actually
lived on in other boards.
It's lived on, and it's primarily been a resource that I've tapped into for testing other people's boards.
Oh, like, good deal.
Just having a controller available to open up and look at.
Yeah.
Knowing that it's already blown, who cares if I break something else? You know, I can play around with that instead of playing around with a live board or something. But yeah,
gotcha.
lives on.
All right, everyone. I hope you enjoyed that interview. I surely did. I love picking the brains of the people that know a lot more about specific subjects than I do. In this case, it was Onewheel. And also, I love seeing, and this is not only about Onewheel, but also I experienced this in the sim racing world as well. But I love seeing when people have a passion about something, a specific subject, and then they can mold that and take that and create a full-time business based on their passion. It's an awesome motivational thing to see. I really enjoyed talking to him about not only the development of his businesses, but what his businesses are all about and the community he's trying to build around them. But also the Fix My PEV is just going to uplift the entire Onewheel community, because in there you have the community of other independent shops around the nation who are easily accessible through that website. So if you're like me and you don't feel comfortable ripping down the board and doing battery box modifications and stuff like that to fit batteries in, and you really want a professional to do it, you could go on his Fix My PEV and you can look up a local shop near you, get it done. Or if you want to do something DIY, there's an awesome resource of information on there for the DIYer, for the person that wants to do it themselves. And that's just going to level up everybody, which is absolutely awesome and greatly appreciated. But also to hear the work that he's doing with other ventures as well. So you do have that other group, the Meals on Onewheels, and he's very active within there and very proud to bring it up, even though that is not his company per se, but he's definitely a collaborator with them, and it's absolutely awesome. I really love the Onewheel community as a whole, and it's something that not only are the boards fun and the experience of riding is fun, but the community in itself is just a whole nother experience, a whole nother layer on top. And I hope you all get the chance to experience something like this. But everyone, hopefully you enjoyed this video. I definitely look to do a lot more videos like this. Also, I know there's a few people that are local to me that have very interesting businesses within sim racing. I look to interview and maybe get some information out to you all so you all know what is around us in the world here. Everyone, I'm Crash. This is RTA Motorsports. Subscribe, hit that like button, hit that reminder bell. I would greatly appreciate it. Stay safe, stay happy. See you all next time.